Good afternoon, everyone. We are here with Keith Conway today from Whitehorse Capital. He's my guest, and the show is Who's in the House with Michael? All right. We're on Spotify. You can check us out on all social media. You'll find us everywhere. But I thought let's get to know Keith a little bit today. We have a little common thing here. We found out that you're pretty close friends with one of my cousins.
That's right.
Which
That's
is
right.
awesome and interesting. And I love those connections because then you kind of go back and have stories to talk about. But where did you grow up? Are you from Long Island?
I am. I grew up in Floral Park.
Oh, Floral Park.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Floral Park native.
Mets.
I'm a Mets fan. I'm more of a college basketball fan. So I grew
Okay.
up a big St. John's
St. John's.
Hoops guy.
Yeah. Right. Where'd you end up going to school?
I went to University of Dayton out in Ohio.
Okay.
So I went to Chaminade.
Yeah.
That's actually how I know my now two business partners. And after 4 years there, was applying to all the typical Northeastern schools. My guidance counselor was like, I think there's a school out in Ohio you might enjoy, University of Dayton. Shot him a free application. When I got the scholarship, I was like, yeah, I'll go look at it. Loved it. They had a great entrepreneurship program, great business program. Liked the feel and the size of the school.
Yeah.
And I did my 4 years out there.
I want to go back. You grew up in Queens.
Nassau.
Oh, that's Nassau?
Floral Park. Yeah. They say
That's weird, right?
It's funny that they say two counties, one town. Floral
Okay.
Park is technically on the Queens side and also technically on the Nassau side.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I get that now. What were you into in school? Were you sports, hobbies, music?
So growing up, was a basketball player. Did a little bit of everything, and tried all sports. Was always outside, playing football, baseball, whatever. But basketball was my core sport growing up. Also did a little bit of martial arts and then some wrestling in high school.
Did you expect to continue with sports after high school?
Not necessarily. Didn't necessarily have the height or the build for it.
You
but
realized that at the end of high school, right?
I played a little bit of club. Kept
Yeah.
active. Did some club teams here and there,
Yeah.
but nothing too organized.
What about your parents? What kind of work did they do, or did they do?
So my dad worked in the retirement business for his entire career.
Meaning financial planning type?
More so like administration. It's a business that does like 401k record keeping.
Oh, okay.
So he did that for basically his whole career. And my mom did a number of different jobs. Worked in hospitals, administration. She did. She worked at daycares. So she's really good with kids.
She wasn't necessarily particularly on a career path, but she was working to keep the family moving forward.
100%.
What about siblings?
Got two of them. I'm the youngest of three.
Uh-oh. You're the baby, the spoiled
Yeah,
one.
that's right.
So what do they do? What kind of hobbies are they into?
Well, sister is a therapist. Brother works in HR for universities. And now more recently has moved over to like hospitals for like university hospitals.
Were either of them doing sports in school?
Sister was a college athlete. She did track.
I feel like she's the oldest
She's the oldest.
because you keep
Yeah.
referring to her like she's the boss. You know what I mean?
She was the
That's how it
boss.
is with an older sister
We
and
had
a
to fall
younger.
in line quick.
My wife has a young sibling who was born late in life for her mother, and so my wife kind of raised him. So I hear you referring to your sister already, and I'm thinking she's the boss that raised you. I get it.
Pretty much.
And
they were closer in age. I was a bit younger. They were about 18 months apart.
Yeah.
I was, 3.5 years younger than my brother. So,
Okay.
a little bit of distance there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was the brainiac of the family, the bookworm.
When in high school did you decide, probably not going to be a professional athlete, I need to figure out a career path? When did that come to light for you, and how?
So Chaminade was, I think, a really good thing for me personally because obviously has a strong academic background, strong athletic background, but it really kind of put you in place pretty quickly that, like, for lack of a better term, you're not that special.
Okay.
And I remember our orientation freshman year, our guidance counselor called us into, our meeting rooms, our homerooms, and said, you're going to create relationships with people around you. They're going to be in your weddings. They're going to be lifelong friends. You're going to be at their funerals. They'll be at yours. But you're competing for the same places in college in the next 4 years.
Okay.
And it's competition. And it was, at that point, it was kind of like, okay, it's, you have to kind of take things a little more seriously, whether it's your grades, your academics. So pretty early on, it was kind of ingrained in you that like you're growing up into a person, and you have to think about what the world's going to look like for you as a man, and there's options, and maybe you make the team, or you're a member of the club, but for me at least, I wasn't the star on any team I was on at Chaminade. I wasn't the president of the club. I was involved.
But even to that point, like how many people really make it to the pro and then get to play and then even get to like a playoff game or something? Like that's such a slim odd, right?
Small percentage.
Yeah.
But I think you learn a lot through those sports, and I wouldn't have traded it.
100%.
Good experience.
So how did you end up deciding which avenue? How did you pick your career path?
So I went to the University of Dayton undecided business major.
Yeah.
And
meaning you didn't know what to do.
I didn't pick
know
a
what you were
major.
gonna be.
I was in the business school. They have an engineering school. They
Yeah.
have a education school. So I was in the business school.
But did you feel like coming out of high school, you're pretty good at math, pretty good academically? And
I was
you
always
felt
good
like,
at math. Math was my primary. English, communication. I felt like I was social. I wanted to do some sort of, my dad was in business, so just kind of thought that, that was where I would ultimately end up. Parents thought I'd be a lawyer. I like arguing, debating, however you want to qualify
my parents
it.
could have said that too.
But what it really came down to was I was just going to try to figure it out.
Yeah.
And my freshman year, they started really pushing this entrepreneurship program, and I ultimately became an entrepreneurship major. And it was the only major where there was like certain requirements to get in after your freshman year. So you had to have a certain level GPA, you have to take a certain level, certain type of prerequisites. And you also got to run your own business your sophomore year.
Oh.
And they give you certain money of the university's endowment. You start your own business, you run it, and then you give money back to the endowment. In your senior year, you're a consultant for a local business. So it was me trying to think about what I ultimately wanted to do. I said, what a better way? Get a little bit of marketing, get a little bit of finance, a little bit of accounting, do some legal work, right? So I went down that path and then doubled it with a second major of marketing with a sales emphasis, just because I enjoyed the concept of sales, had a good sales program.
Okay.
But what really sparked it for me, interestingly enough, was my freshman year. I heard senior got a job at BlackRock, and I found out he was getting paid $70,000, and I was like, my gosh,
Rich.
yeah. What does one do to get a job at BlackRock?
Right.
And that opened the whole concept of finance, and started digging in more, educating myself, getting involved in clubs, networking. I was talking to all different types of people, all different jobs within finance. And I mean, not necessarily the best reason why I initially got interested, but like what I started to appreciate was there were so many different facets of it, and so many different things that are relevant in the world of finance, and geopolitical risk, and what's going on local economies. And I became fascinated by it. So flash forward a few years, did a couple internships, ultimately ended landing a job in finance, and that's where I spent the first portion of my career.
All right. So finance is a really vague word, right? Like you said, there's so many different avenues. My audience knows I come from a hospitality background. I always say people use the word chef like and there's a chef in the food truck, and there's also a chef who's creating artwork.
Yeah.
And so there's a really so where in finance did you see yourself in the beginning? What angle were you going? Were you trying to do Wall Street stuff, or was it more personal accounts with people, or?
Yeah, so my first job was really kind of an intermediary between retail and institutional. So what we really did was work with the institutions to position some of their products to financial advisors who manage individuals' money. So you, as a financial advisor, are managing money and retirement plans for individuals.
Yeah.
But there's so many options.
Right.
So my role was to help them understand the different options available and why one was better than the other.
So are you representing one particular institution, like a Wells Fargo or something, when you're doing this?
Yeah, that was Goldman
Sachs. So you're able to
Sachs.
go to that financial advisor and say, let me talk to you about the products Wells Fargo can offer to your clients and how it works.
That's
so
right.
Okay. So you're not like a broker at this point representing different financial institutions. You're working with one specific one with the type of products. Okay. But what type of products were those at that time?
Generally mutual funds.
Mutual funds. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's investment vehicles.
Yeah, investment vehicles.
Okay, got it. All right. How long did you do that?
I was in that role for 2.5 years. And in doing that, I got, I was in New York, I was living in the city, I was working at Goldman Sachs, I was an analyst, and I was exposed to doing some merger and acquisition work. And
Let me just rewind real quick.
yeah,
Was it Goldman Sachs, the institution you were representing at that time?
yes,
Okay, got it. All
that
right.
was the firm.
Just want to make sure I got it
before I
right.
started out of
Okay.
school. And in that role, we ended up acquiring another company, and through that process, they brought me on to the deal team to kind of understand how are we going to buy this business, and what will we do with it, how would we integrate the people and scale it, and that really brought on this whole concept of like strategy and longer term vision versus kind of like the short term sales
Stair steps, yeah.
tactics. So it was from that experience I got to know people in the other different divisions across the firm and learn a little bit more about, just instead of my specific vertical, a little bit more broadly about what Goldman Sachs does.
So
And
is this more like in the world of acquisitions?
so I got to know the acquisitions team.
Yeah.
Just because of this acquisition we were doing.
Yeah.
Which kind of parlayed into, hey, Keith, there's a really interesting opportunity over in this other division. Would you be interested in pursuing it? And that's when I moved over to our trading business. And I spent 4 years in our trading business on the trading floor.
That's the real grind, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the
Yeah.
floor,
I'd
a
say,
lot of stress.
yeah, I mean, it was different culture. It moves quicker. Football field size floor.
Yeah.
700 people, you're crammed, person to person, but a lot of energy.
So what is your role while you're down there on the floor?
So I was on a team that did cross-division relationship management. So effectively what we did is cover the largest, most complex clients of the firm, do business in a bunch of different ways, and just make sure everyone's rowing in the same direction and we're prioritizing the right stuff.
I still don't have a handle on that. I'm not going to lie.
No problem.
Because in my head, I got trading places of people on the floor shedding paper and screaming and shouting out. And I don't understand where you are on that. You're not the guy calling prices or answering the phones and responding. You're doing something else with relationships around the room, right?
So I'll give a simple example. BlackRock is the largest asset manager in the world. They probably have around the globe 200 different salespeople covering them, all positioning their own products just from Goldman.
Oh, okay, got it.
Just from Goldman.
Okay.
They probably, they each have their own priorities. They're incentivized differently, and they're all trying to position their own trades or their own, their own specific agenda to optimize for their specific product silo.
Okay.
As margins have compressed across sales and trading, those relationships to make sure that the pie is growing as a client of Goldman, overall relationship is growing. It's important to have people who are making sure that we're prioritizing the right things, and those 200 people know at the end of the year, this is where we want to be with the firm. These are our priorities, and are we all kind of going in the right direction?
So again, going back to the floor, it's chaotic, it's hectic.
Yeah.
What are you doing on the? Who are you talking to? What are you doing?
All the different salespeople. So they're on my trading floor. They were, like I said, 700 people, 10 different asset classes. So 10 different broad teams, and probably within that, 30 different products that each have their own different salespeople. And while they're kind of doing the individual blocking and tackling, if there's any problems, they're escalating it to our team. We're helping, we're helping alleviate some of that. We're writing longer term business plans of, okay, what do we want to get done this quarter? There's these like broker reviews that they would hold, basically a report card that they would come in.
So you're on the floor kind of stimulating those guys and supporting them to make sure they're selling that product, right?
They have their own products. We just want to make sure that everyone's rowing in the right direction.
Okay, got it. All right. How long did you do that?
I was there for 4 years.
Was it stressful?
It was.
When you're young, you can manage it pretty good,
a lot of ups
right?
and downs, but like I learned a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of veterans on the floor. That division is a lot less hierarchical, where in the sense where there's senior people sitting right next to you on the desk. So you get a lot of exposure. You get to learn a lot. You get to see people who have been
Just
super
NASDAQ?
successful.
Are you in a NASDAQ exchange? Which exchange?
No, it was on Goldman's trading floor.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, we had our own trading floor.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
And it was just a great learning experience. I got to see a lot. I was exposed to a lot of ups and downs, some big trades, some bad days, but
So what happened after 4 years?
I saw the writing on the wall just in sales and trading in general. A lot of electronification of markets, consolidation. You see high-performing salespeople go to a competitor and then backfill with a junior resource. And, a lot of institutional knowledge left, and a lot of hiring going on for people who have coding backgrounds. And what it ultimately came down to was I was approached by McKinsey Consulting to help grow their business that helps these large banks consolidate their sales and trading arms. So really, as this is still like a multi-$100 billion revenue pool, it's going down year over year. And these banks have to get more strategic around the products that they're selling and the people that they're hiring and the locations that they're in, whether in New York versus Dallas. And McKinsey Consulting is a great consulting firm. I was never really looking for, like, a lot of people come into these large institutions saying, I'm going to do 2 years and get out. That was never my objective, right? I was happy to have a job there. I had a good experience. Granted, there were some ups and downs, and, you learn a lot through that process. But for me, it was kind of right place, right time, a few different instances, and just being ready for the right opportunity when it came about. And there's things that had come my way, and I turned it down and didn't feel right. But, I always want to be in a growing area. And I saw this opportunity at McKinsey to really take my career to the next level and, be a leader in a growing space.
You said your sister was a therapist.
Yeah.
What kind of therapist?
She works with kids.
Like a counselor? Like as a social worker type?
Yes.
That's what my daughter does.
Very
My
nice.
daughter's a licensed clinical social worker who currently is serving a children's population. So I think they're doing the same thing. So along the way, your sister coach you at all? Does she pull you aside? Does she give advice still, or she let you just kind of run and grow up on
Sometimes
your own?
I bounce ideas off of her, but we had a 5-year gap. So, we probably became a lot closer when we were adults.
Yeah, of course.
I was in, elementary school, and she was entering high school. I was entering high school.
Yeah.
She was in college. I was entering college. She was a professional,
Right.
right? So, she's always been there for, support or questions, but I don't know if I've ever leaned on her as a therapist. She's still my sister.
Yeah, no, I don't mean in that deep sense. I just meant more like, man, the stress is building, and
Yeah.
start recognizing it and probably being able to maybe coach a little bit out of it. So how long were you with McKinley?
McKinsey was 3 years. McKinsey was 3 years. So I took that job, and ironically enough, 4 months after I joined, they blew up. The group I was in, it's 30,000 person organization, big organization, new building group. Some bad actors doing some things that unfortunately sunk the ship.
Oh, you say blew up in a bad way then?
Yeah,
Okay.
blew up in a bad way. And so I was on an island after 4 months there. Everyone who brought me in supported me, was no longer with the firm, and took a little bit of a different role. But I think that's what really sparked the thought that maybe I don't want to work for a large corporation anymore.
Yeah.
Because some things that are outside of my control really caused this scenario, which was less than optimal for me. So.
And that's the part of the growing up, maturing, and seasoning, because there are times in your career where those are amazing opportunities to be in a larger environment with structure and rigid, and you could see a lot of it. And then you have the other kind of experience where you feel like, well, maybe that's not the right fit. And then, of course, watching this business blow up sucks. But somewhere in your life, you're going to look back and go, I learned something from that.
100%.
I took something away from that.
Yeah.
Now I have eyes open.
Yeah.
I'm not naive and blind anymore. I could see things that don't smell right, right?
Right.
Okay, so then what happened from there?
Bounce around. I took 2 different roles. Again, another large institution, working with large companies, consulting on big, meaty projects. Good skill set to learn, but I just wasn't passionate about it.
Yeah.
And COVID hit. A lot more time, not only working remote and kind of in a silo, but more time to just think about is this what you want to be doing the rest of your life, and where do you want to be, and life is short, and make sure you enjoy it. And kind of what ultimately led to me spending more time in real estate, both on the principal side and then getting with a partner, thinking about how we grow, how we scale, and was in the shadows for a bit while I was still working at McKinsey.
Okay.
And then ultimately got to a point where we said, let's go do this full time.
All right. Before I dig into that,
Mm-hmm.
You got a wedding ring on your hand.
I do.
When did you get married along this process?
I got married this year.
Oh,
in March.
congratulations. All right.
Yes.
So then my next question is moot. You probably don't have children yet. You didn't start that.
One on the way.
Oh, you did right. Look at you. Good for
Yeah,
you. When?
we're going to have a daughter
Oh, good.
in
Congratulations.
March.
March.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think
Yeah.
you heard me say already. We just had our first grandchild.
Very
This is a girl
exciting.
also about 10 days ago. So it's very
Did
exciting.
you know the sex ahead of time?
Yeah, we knew.
Good.
We knew. We had her named ahead. She was named. My wife's stealing the baby. My son knows that she's going to steal the baby and run off. That's what's going to happen. But it's a great experience. And my first child was a girl also. So it's a great experience.
Any advice?
No, none at all. Actually, because parenting, my son has been giving us this whole, right before the baby was born, this whole paranoid, we don't know what to do. You guys got to come over. You got to help us. You got a mom. You got to take care of the baby.
Uh-huh.
But the reality is, when the child's born, as a family, you learn how to manage it. The child immediately is teaching you, I need to be fed. I need to be changed. You start learning those patterns, and the cues just happen. So, as long as you're one of those people that's naturally intuitive and you're paying attention and, and you're passionate, you're into it, you'll figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
The child's going to teach you forever. Forever you'll be learning lessons from a child. It's a great experience.
My wife's been great. She's been a trooper through it all, and her name's Jocelyn, and she's been doing all the homework on what do we need to prepare.
We just got past that shit. Setting up the rooms, all the tools. My wife wanted to get a crib before. I'm like, she's not even born yet. We have time before we get a crib. We just cleaned out the attic and got rid of the cribs.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So, and of course, I said, well, it's too bad we don't have those. Oh, no. They don't let you use those anymore. The children die in those. I'm like, well, our children didn't. So, we all got here somehow. Our grandparents got here with a midwife in the kitchen, floor.
Right.
So it's all good. Did your wife have a career?
She does. She does medical device sales.
Oh, man. Somebody in our group that I interviewed did that too. Very interesting. Medical device as in like hip replacement parts and shoulder parts?
Does spine. So she's literally like in surgery, working with surgeons.
It's pretty interesting.
Wild how much I've learned from completely different, skill set. And
did she have to learn a lot about medicine and all that coming through school to get to that place?
She didn't study like biology or anything in college, but she got into this career in the industry and enjoyed it and jumped around a little bit. But she's been with this company now for 5 years, and it's a bigger company. She's been happy. She's got a good support system. So
I think it's cool as heck.
Good.
I have found that as I'm maturing and as an adult, I really enjoy watching. Like the surgery used to be on the Surgery Channel. I would stop and actually watch. Now the first few seconds you're like, the blood, right? But in a couple minutes it passes, and then just watching this is so mechanical.
It's amazing what they can do.
If you build a house, if you do anything carpentry, you could so relate it. Yeah. My wife's had hip replacements. Her hip surgeon is like one of the best in the country. Most amount of surgery. He's at a hospital for special surgery, but his first degree is engineering. Yeah. His second degree is in doing this kind of work, changing out hips and knees. And it makes total sense that you would want to have an engineering background before you're rebuilding someone's foundation. So I think it's cool as hell. All right, good. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Before we get to that last part that I want to ask you about, I just want to remind everybody, you can catch the show on Spotify. We will have all of Keith's information posted as a graphic, and you can see the full-length interview on YouTube. Of course, Charlie will post us on TikTok and Instagram and all the rest of it. So we can look forward to that. All right. So now COVID comes, and you decide it's time to kick off and start your own business. You have a partner. Tell me about the business itself, what you guys are doing, where you started. Maybe it's evolved to something else now.
Absolutely, and it has.
Yeah.
Our company is called Whitehorse Capital. And initially, we started off doing smaller real estate deals in Pennsylvania. And just to get our...
Like what? Like buying a house, flipping it, or?
So our first deal was a syndication deal where we were a very small piece of someone else who was running it, and it was a student housing project by University of Scranton. And that was just to kind of learn, get in the game. We didn't raise money. We used our own capital to get in, but we were part of like the management group that makes the decisions. Okay. So they were going to do some renovations, and like it's been a lifelong passion of mine. My grandfather years and years ago, got his first apartment, fixed it up, managed himself, then bought the one next door, then ended up getting a building and kind of, grew a portfolio that way. And, he's still my inspiration and one of, the patriarch of our family. He's 92, but he was carrying refrigerators up and down staircases till he was like in his mid 70s. Right. And he was still doing his own property
That's
management in
old
Brooklyn,
school
going there
strength.
till like 10 years ago,
Yeah,
until
I
his
know.
80s. And
That-
he loved it.
That generation, it's like
He
old
loved
school strength, man.
It was great, but it was
I
so
know.
inspirational,
I
right?
know.
And he had 5 kids, and ballooned into a much bigger family with grandkids and great grandkids. So it was always kind of just something very, very cool for me. And the concept of real estate growing up was something I knew I'd always be interested in, but it just felt so unattainable. You need a lot of money, or you need a lot of connections that are going to kind of plug you in.
How do you start? How do you get in?
Yeah.
That's the hard part, right?
And I mean, going through finance, like I kind of joke about the compensation, but like I always told myself I was going to grind through my 20s to set myself up for what I actually want to do in my 30s. Did I know what I wanted to do? No, but it's kind of funny that's in saying that and actually aspiring that, it's kind of what
Well,
happened.
you understand how money works.
Yeah.
You understand how it's acquired and used, and people do things with other people's money now. That's the foundation that you to start this real estate piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were doing some smaller deals in Pennsylvania. The environment was getting more and more competitive with COVID, so there were a couple small things that we bid on, didn't work out. But again, it was part-time, right? We were both busy. My other partner was at Deloitte doing M&A consulting. We're flying across the country. We're doing calls at midnight to try to underwrite a deal. We're waking up early, passing along potential deals to each other, meeting up on weekends. But the 70 plus hours a week were dedicated to our W-2 job.
Yeah.
And this was on the side, and it was just like, if we really want to do this and we feel like we're getting to a point where we're excited about it and we know enough to be dangerous, like we really have to take a risk here.
Dive in.
So about it was late 2022 when he made the first jump and left his career to start really trying to build the pieces. And I started spending more time with him. Took a step back from work, not formally, but wasn't trying to work as hard to become CEO. It was just doing everything that was required and then some, but also just trying to shift my mind a little bit and put a definitive date on when I was going to resign and jump into this.
Hard.
So it was confirmed that we were going to do this. And what we started to find through trying to get back to our core market of Long Island was that there's a lot of people out there who own a significant amount of real estate, and there's this whole, what we believe to be lack of just high quality advice for people who own a meaningful amount of real estate. Whether it be, I have philanthropic arms to my core and I want to give to charity. I want to leverage my real estate to do that. Did you know that charities that accept alternative investments grow at 3 times the rate, and only 2% of charitable donations are made in real estate? We just thought that was, like, why isn't there a way for people to donate their real estate? It's complex, right? That's one example. Sustainability is a hot topic. We started getting smart on things like clean energy, solar, HVAC, LED lighting, EV chargers. And then, of course, on the, just broader advisory side, coming from a background in finance and consulting, he's a CPA. So, the accounting background, like, how do we just really help people who are trying to think through their holdings, whether it's my grandfather who may have owned a bunch of real estate, but their kids are not interested in taking over real estate. How do you pass that down versus just selling it, right? How do you keep your equity, and how do you think about it from a trust standpoint, from an estate planning standpoint? How do you give up management but keep the equity or revenue associated with those assets?
So are you coaching people in, once they have that portfolio, to kind of understand what's your goal, and let's figure out a plan to get there instead of just having random portfolio with no plan at all?
So simply put, White Horse Capital is 2 things. The real estate investment side is pretty straightforward. We act as a real estate private equity firm. On the advisory side, I mentioned a few things, but it really comes down to real estate portfolio planning. And the easy way to think about what that really is real estate wealth management. We're problem solvers for people who own real estate, whether it be, I have land and I'm not sure how to best utilize that land. I want to exit properties and sure I can sell it and pay those cap gains taxes and then pass it down, but is that the optimal way? We talked a little about philanthropy. I want to do clean energy. So what we really do is try to talk to clients generally between 10 and $200 million worth of real estate holdings, understand what their goals are, what they're trying to accomplish, what their challenges are with their real estate, come up with solutions, get them down on paper, work with accountants, work with lawyers, work with engineers, work with developers to really come with formulate a structure and a plan, just like we would do in consulting for Fortune 100 companies.
Yeah.
Lay that out for clients, and they say, I want to go down Avenue C.
Yeah.
I want to sell this property. I want to redevelop this property, and I want to put this into a trust for my kids. And then we move to the execution. Once we agree Avenue C is where I want to go, we move to execution, and we work to get it done.
Do you guys work with like 1031 exchanges and stuff?
do.
You do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, 1031 exchange is probably the most common,
Yeah.
A tax-deferred vehicle.
Yeah.
But it's not the only option. And I think a lot of people will ultimately, revert to that. And they think that's the only option. We like to say it's a great option for the right scenario.
Right.
It's not the only option.
Right. I mean, there's gifting and there's some limits to that too, right? The whole game is, how do you save this nut from being totally taken away and eaten up and consumed by taxes?
So there's another interesting stat. So a core piece of our thesis is, everyone's talking about the great wealth transfer, right? They're saying in the next 25 years, $84 trillion of wealth will be transferred from older generations to younger generations.
Because the boomers are the largest part of the population right now.
That's right.
And that's where we're at. I'm the last stage of the boomer. I'm the last year of the boomers. I don't even relate to most boomers, which is weird, but I was born in the last year it's considered.
Yeah.
But we're the largest part of the population now. We're aging, we're retiring, we're going to have homes to sell and businesses to whatever, right?
70% of families erode wealth within one generation. So the patriarch creates the wealth. Next generation takes it over. By the time the third generation gets it, 70% of families will erode the wealth that the patriarch has created.
Because it's being consumed, or because it's being mismanaged and they're not learning how to avoid
Mismanaged
taxes?
whether it be state taxes, whether it be cap gains taxes. There's a number of problems associated with that.
Yeah.
7 out of 10, that's a huge number. And 43% of U.S. wealth is held in real estate.
Yeah.
So our big piece is that if you want to get that core piece right, and you want to take care of your kids and your grandkids and the charities that mean so much to you, real estate's a key part of that.
Right.
Whether it be you own a single home, multiple, residential, a second home, a third home, you own commercial, like whatever your asset base looks like, you need to get a plan in place just like you do for your stock portfolio.
Sure.
But a lot of times wealth managers don't necessarily advise on real estate. That's why we're in business.
And I'm starting to meet a lot of folks in the different networking groups that are in a similar field, but they're so specialized. It's almost, wow. I had no idea somebody specialized in that specific section of wealth management, right?
Sure.
One's an attorney. He does this particular thing. Another one is the guy who's moving the money around and investing it. And now to hear you talking about managing real estate wealth for people, really, So there's two parts of your business. The one part is the coaching and the managing and helping the client. And the other part is you're the private equity firm loaning money.
We buy.
You're buying.
Yes. Yeah.
What are you buying? Commercial?
We buy commercial. We buy mixed use. We buy multifamily. We like, downtown metro area. So
you working on Long Island for most of the stuff, or?
Yes, we've done mostly Long Island, Queens, Brooklyn. It's kind of New York metro area.
New York is a really tough place to work on many levels, right?
Sure.
There's bureaucracy, there is regulation, there's certainly tax. A lot of times, with investment in real estate, the first thought is another state that doesn't have a cap gains tax, it doesn't have only income taxes, state income taxes. So digging in and doing this in the New York, Long Island area is not the easiest way to start this, right? I mean, you know that because you did some work in Pennsylvania. Right. So tell me a little bit more about the types of properties and how you're finding them and, how you're selling them. How are you maneuvering?
So we still think that there's a lot of value in New York as a whole, right? You look at just the population growth across the U.S. You look at things like people moving into New York from other areas, even through COVID. Look at where rents have gone. Look where sale prices have gone. There's still a lot of value here, and across the U.S., there's still a housing shortage.
Yeah.
To your point, New York, because of the price point, is hard to get in, but there's always good deals in every market.
Sure.
So we're very particular. Our our third partner who we brought in, fellow Chaminade guy as well. He's our CIO, CFO, brilliant engineering background. He was an investor at Goldman. He's done an excellent job being very thorough. And we think our competitive edge is like, we're willing to walk away from deals. We walk away from deals all the time. But when we find a good one, and when we source a good one, we're excited about it. And we're willing to really push to get it. So I think from a sourcing standpoint, it's relationships, having good relationships with brokers, knowing the areas. We grew up on Long Island. This is kind of our core market. You know, we can, of course, know areas in Queens, know areas in Nassau County, know certain areas in Suffolk. More importantly, bounce it off of people. Hey, what do you think about this area? What do you think about that? Like, that's really been core. And then, you know, just kind of being ingrained through the advisory piece. Like, we're starting to see more off-market stuff where someone's like, yeah, I want to get out of this asset. It's not exciting for me. Sure, you know, we can find a buyer, but if we think it's an interesting opportunity for us, like, why not us?
Got it. Okay. So do you also broker then?
I do have my license.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm licensed I park it with a commercial real estate brokerage in Syosset.
But that's probably not the biggest of what you do is brokering a deal, right? You're probably more about looking for a sweet deal that you can add value to.
I mean, we learn a lot, and we develop a lot of relationships being brokers. Through advisory piece, we like to partner with other brokers, so we'll farm out a lot of the work.
Yeah.
Because it's you know, not our core market, people can have assets all over. We'll farm a lot of that work out. But you know, the ethos of the business is being the owner and the investor, not operating as just a broker on the transaction.
And are you doing investment properties that you're holding on to and
Yes.
becoming landlords too?
Yes, we'll do. Yeah, we buy the property, we manage it, we manage the investor, we manage the lending relationships, and then, you know, we look to do an optimal exit, and we model all of that out. And, you know, is this a 3-year asset? Is it a 5-year asset? Is it a 20-year asset? We're very transparent with our investors as to, you know, what the strategy is, what option A is, option B, and what
Right.
the outcomes will look like, and you know, we look to make it a good experience.
It's cool. It's exciting. I mean, I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been said before on camera, I wish I would have gotten into real estate when I was much younger. Because I really love it.
Yeah.
I love the relationship piece. I love the satisfaction of helping somebody get where they want to get. And I like the transaction part too. I like negotiating. I like the, you know, following up on things and making sure you're dotting I's across the T's to make deals happen. I enjoy all that stuff. But I guess it's the skills from my past career that are making me good at what I'm doing now. But I really wish I would have gotten into it much younger. So it's pretty exciting what you're doing. There's so many places to be in the real estate world. You know, people say, how's real estate? I'm like, it's great as long as you just move around. Whatever the market's doing, there's a way to make money somewhere, right? Same with the stock market. Somebody's making money even when the stock market's tanking,
Sure.
right? So you can make money if the market shifts. You just have to shift. You have to pivot. You have to learn how to do that. And I think with the kind of business you have now, you've set yourself up in a kind of a diverse way that you're not, all your eggs aren't in one basket. You're not buying and holding everything. You're not flipping everything.
Right.
You're doing a mixed use kind of, and you're coaching other people how to do things.
Yeah.
So it's great stuff. Who is your customer? Who on camera would you like to see? Oh my God, I gotta reach out to Keith. Who's that person?
People who own real estate and have challenges, whether that be, I want to pass it down to my kids. I'm a little bit older. My kids are lawyers, doctors, accountants, nurses, and they don't know anything about real estate, but I've spent so much time building this great portfolio, and I want them to benefit from that. It's the optimal way to do that. People who have had recent deaths, and they've inherited assets, and now they're sitting on a piece, and they don't know who holds title and what the tax implications are. So, like, again, people who own $10 to $200 million in real estate and just want some advice on what are my options.
So most of the time, the person you're talking about has commercial properties.
It can be multiple residential properties.
Right. I mean, somebody's grandfather might have bought 10 houses.
Well, it could be 3 homes, and someone has a philanthropic arm, and they want you know, some help on. I really work well with this charity, and I want to be a more prominent donor. And when I pass, I want them to be a beneficiary. How do I make that happen?
Yeah, you're not working for the one house here and the one thing there. It's a portfolio. I get it.
Portfolio planning.
That's great stuff, man.
It's been fun. It's been fun.
What didn't I ask you that I should have asked you to bring out? What did I miss?
Gosh, what are we nervous about? What are we nervous about in the business?
Well,
You didn't ask me what I was nervous about.
what are you nervous? All right, what are you nervous about? Because I know you're smart enough. You're shifting. What would you be nervous about? I mean, the world's about to explode, right?
Yeah, right.
The world's in crisis. I can't
Yeah.
even turn on my television anymore. It's easy to be nervous about everything.
Just don't.
Right?
Just don't turn it
I mean,
on.
really, it's a stressful world we live in now. The electronic devices in our hand all day alone
Yeah.
are creating anxiety. What are you nervous about?
I'd say at the end of the day, there's things like regulation that are outside of your control. There are, things that happen with the real estate holdings that are kind of outside. Maybe you miss something on an inspection or whatever it comes down to. We're a startup. We're young. We're growing. We're energized about it, but we need to scale, right? We need to scale meaningfully. Sure. And we all left meaningful jobs with great trajectories, and we need to get our wives on board.
This is where the wives come in.
Yeah, exactly.
I did it too.
We got to keep them happy.
Somebody's got to pay the bills. Somebody's got to carry an
Exactly.
insurance plan for you, right?
So,
okay.
The worry, as any entrepreneur worries, that you're not scaling quickly enough to do this forever. I think we, as my two partners and I say, if this grows and we can do this the rest of our lives, we will. That is the coolest thing.
You're a smart guy, Keith. You're clearly a very talented fellow. You've got great education behind you. You've had great experiences behind you to pull it all together. You certainly have some family history in this. You've partnered up with guys that are at least as smart as you are, if not smarter, which is always the best way to do it.
Yep.
You guys will figure out whatever's happening. Like you said, the regulation's always been there. It's always coming. You could say that 100 years ago, your grandfather could have said it. Taxation's always been the same problem. And I'm sure you'll diversify, if you haven't already, between different states, between different types of properties. There's always one thing going up, one thing going down. It's ebbs and flows. You're going to figure it out. But I know in the beginning, when you have a little less in the bank and you're a little bit more overextended, everything is a crisis waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Until you get some level of stability, but you're going to get there pretty quick. I feel it.
Thank you.
Well, it was great really getting to know you on camera. That's kind of what I do. I feel like we have some things that we should talk about off camera.
Sure. Happy to do it.
Again, it's Keith Conway, White Horse
Capital.
White Horse Capital. Charlie's going to put up a graphic. We'll have your logo. We'll have your contact information. So if anybody heard something today that was exciting that they thought, this is the guy I need to talk to, they'll be able to get to you.
Great.
And we'll share that with you. So
thank you so much,
everyone. My pleasure. This was Who's in the House with Michael. And again, we are up on Spotify. We have a YouTube channel. You'll see the full-length video. And everywhere else, Charlie will post for us. All right? So thanks very much.
Thank you so much for the time.
All right.